This is Jerry, and this is Tom. Both are very successful CEOs at Fortune 500 companies. Today, most people would judge this woman's success as the head of a company with the same standard that they would do this man's. Now let's go back a couple thousand years ago, when the Nile flowed around the sands of Egypt and when the mighty pharaohs roamed the earth and Egyptian royalty was equivalent to the gods. Now here, how would you compare female rulers to their male counterparts? A little different, right? Female rulers in ancient Egypt should be held to a different standard than their male counterparts, and here's why. Governmental structure. As dictated by the government in Egypt, only men could take on the important roles and responsibilities that came with being a ruler. Powerful men of Egypt would take part in the government by administering the state of affairs, leading armies, and partaking in diplomacy. Being pharaoh was basically a boys' club, and the few women who were able to join, like Hatshepsut, did so at the expense of their femininity. Hatshepsut dressed up as a man during her time as a pharaoh, wearing a false beard and ordering to be depicted with muscles and a male physique in statues and paintings of that time, in order to project the image of a real pharaoh. Then there's Nefertiti, most well known as the wife of King Akhenaten. She mysteriously disappeared for 12 years during her husband's reign. Scholars believe that it was during this hiatus that she was elevated to the status of co-regent, equal in power to the pharaoh, and similar to Hatshepsut, began to dress herself as a man in order to strengthen this position. If men of the highest rank were pharaohs, while women of the same birth rank could only marginally pass as such by going to extreme lengths of dressing up like men to take on the same responsibilities, then how can their success be taken in the same way? Gender roles. In ancient Egypt, people followed the example of the gods to determine their gender roles in society. Generally, men, especially ones in positions of power, looked to Amun-Ra, known as the patron of the pharaohs and king of the Egyptian gods, as their ideal ruler. Whereas women generally looked to the goddess Isis as a role model. She was the golden standard of what a woman in power should be like. Cleopatra VII even claimed to be Isis herself. Isis was a good queen who supported her husband and taught the women of Egypt how to weave, bake, and brew beer. Fundamentally, what women aspired to be like as rulers was completely different from men. The role model for a female ruler like Isis was one that supported her husband and bore children. The women and men of the time held each other to a very different standard, therefore we in present time must understand the difference. Wives didn't compare their actions, obligations, and successes to their husbands, much like female rulers did not compare their successes to that of a male ruler. A successful woman in the time of the Egyptians would be one that supported her husband and was skilled in domestic jobs. Different standards were held in the women's own mentalities. They did not feel that they were competing against the males, so it is unfair for us to compare the two when they never even thought that that was a standard that they had to reach, let alone surpass. Societal views. Although some women in ancient Egypt have been able to gain power and reign as rulers, society did not fully support and hold them in as high as a regard as one would expect for a ruler. Rulers of Egypt were given the utmost respect from all of their subjects and were honored in their legacy. However, in the case of a female ruler like Hatshepsut, society was more than happy to demolish all signs of her legacy as a ruler. Late in his reign, Thutmose III had almost all of the evidence of Hatshepsut's rule, including the images of her as king on the temples and monuments she had built, eradicated. It is widely believed that this was done to erase her example as a powerful female ruler, or to close the gap in the dynasty's line of male succession. Her reign was thought of as a shameful thing, meaning that he never really thought of her as a true ruler of Egypt. Hatshepsut was never truly honored and appreciated amongst her own people, which limited her horizons as well as her power. How can we hold her to the same standard as male rulers when she was not given the full power and faith that most male rulers have by birthright? Similarly, Cleopatra was not treated with the same divinity and faith that was given to most pharaohs. Egypt was ran based on a theocratic government, meaning that the pharaoh was given a lot of respect and power. No one dared to defy or question them as they were thought to be the gods.
Created using Powtoon.